guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives, back for, well, a bit of a request video. I've had a couple of people ask me, what are some of your favorite King Diamond songs? I'm a longtime fan of King Diamond, Merciful Fate. Believe it or not, I discovered King Diamond before I discovered Merciful Fate, back in the, mid 80s. Well, Fatal Portrait came out in 86, so, in and around that area. So, in anticipation of a new album, especially King Diamond, we've been waiting for now 16 years since 2007's Give Me Your Soul, Please. And I also kind of think we might see a Merciful Fate album in the same calendar year. And I'm hoping 2024. We've had a bit of a tease on the King Diamond with Masquerade of Madness was released digitally in, I think, November of 2019. So we got a new track. It's fantastic. Some kind of creepy, cool artwork for tentatively, or it should be called The Institute, the album, which from what I've read is going to be a 2-part album. I hope they do it similar to how they did Them and Conspiracy with, separate cool artwork and, but, tying the stories together. Because if you're a King Diamond fan, concept stories are pretty much a mainstay. There's one album here that's, 50-50. We'll talk about that one as we go. Excuse me. But yeah, The Institute, hopefully 2024, we see part 1 at least. And like I said, I would suspect a new Merciful Fate album also. We're not getting any younger, so, and then maybe in 2025 we see part 2 of The Institute would be cool too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold up each album. I'm going to name you my favorite track and 2 runner-ups. Like I said, longtime fan of the band. Yes, I know King Diamond's voice it's an acquired taste. I've acquired the taste years ago, so there's no worries there. And if you're watching this, you've probably acquired the taste too. But the music, Andy LaRocque, the guitar playing, the musicians that King Diamond has surrounded himself with over the years are top notch. So we'll go all the way back to 1986, right up to 2007. And then, oh yes, I want to mention too, Masquerade of Madness is finally going to see a physical release on February 2024. It's up for pre-order just for the song. And then there's 2 live tracks, Welcome Home and Arrival on the B-side. A little pricey for one song, but I'm sure Metal Blade has, probably put a little bit of pressure on King Diamond to get something out. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed for that new album in 2024. I know my fingers are crossed. Also, if you're into anything King Diamond, there is a reissue of No Presents for Christmas that is coming out November 24th. And I believe that's only 1 or 2 tracks too. So yeah, do you need that stuff? $24 for a couple of songs? Well, if you're a King Diamond fanatic like me, you probably will pick it up because you do need some presents for Christmas. But anyways, on to the video. We're going to hold up in order, chronological order, timeline, whatever you want to say. Here is Fatal Portrait, 1986. Just almost just a continuation of After Melissa. This is a fantastic album. It actually features Michael Denner, Timmy Hansen, rest in peace, Timmy Hansen, Mickey D on drums, of course, Andy LaRocque. But you still got that, Denner sound in this album. Great album. And my favorite track off of this album is Halloween. And just killer solos in this. It's got that, like I said, it's got that Merciful Fate sound in it. Runner-up tracks would be The Candle, the lead-off track. I love that eerie opening right into the song. It's almost like a full intro. And then you have Karen, just an awesome track. Yeah, this is actually, there's really not a lot of bad tracks on this album. If you know it, I could name a lot more, but we'll just stick to number 1 and a couple runner-ups. So there's Fatal Portrait, 1986. And again, if you want to check out my King Diamond ranking video, it's a tough one to do, especially these 80s albums, or even going into the 90s, are just really special stuff. But here is 1987's Abigail, and the title track has long been my favorite, which is Abigail, of course. A couple of runner-ups for sure on this one, The Family Ghost. But I would put, even above Family Ghost, I would put Black Horseman. But there's just so many good tracks on here too. It's almost one of those best ofs. I mean, like Omens, Arrival, a couple other great tracks. But there is Abigail. Favorite track again is Abigail. I just love that riff, you know, Abigail. And remember, I am not a singer in any shape or form, but there it is, 1987's Abigail. All right, right into 1988. And I always think about these days where we had albums 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, right up until the Eye, you know, year after year, just quality. And I know I've said it before, but timing is everything. We've spent so much time, especially if you're in my age range, you know, you grew up with each release. You got a full year to literally not take it out of your CD player or your cassette player. It was in your vehicle at all times. You just knew these like the back of your hand. But here is them from 1988. And my favorite track on here is Welcome Home. And two runner-ups here are The Invisible Guests and Twilight Symphony, not Sympathy. But yeah, for sure, Welcome Home. Little thin. I've always thought this one is a little thin on the production, especially the drum sound is a little bit weak, but not a bad album in any shape or form. Still love it to this day. And those concept stories, the artwork that King Diamond brings us is awesome. So there is 1988's Them, right into one of my very favorites, and a continuation of the Them story is Conspiracy. I've always loved this cover. It just, you know, when I got over the fact that back in the day, I always thought, you know, Merciful Fate was a little more like something bad was going to happen to me if I listened to it and stuff. But, you know, I got used to this stuff, and like I said, I've always loved this cover. It doesn't creep me out or anything like that. I'm not a big horror fan to begin with, but always loved the King Diamond stories. And this is a fantastic album. Sleepless Nights is, I'm going to go with that as my favorite track, but Amon Belongs to Them is so close. I just love King Diamond's, the lyrics in there. When he's like, Ma, you don't understand. It just sends shivers down my spine, up my neck, whatever you want to say. But it's a great track too. Amon Belongs to Them. And also the track Lies. I've always loved the riff on that. It's super catchy. And it's where, you know, the lyrics are just, you know, telling the story, and it just fits. So, but yeah, for sure, Sleepless Nights. I remember watching that video when it first came out, but there is Conspiracy from 1989. In between Conspiracy and The Eye, there was a bit of a collection called The Dark Sides, which actually has one track. It's called Phone Call, or I think it's Phone Call. It's on there. Dark Sides is pretty good. I mean, if you're a King Diamond collector or whatever, you probably already have it in your collection. All right, continuing on to 1990s, The Eye. Cool artwork again. And a lot of these I have are Metal Blade reissues that, and I've always said Metal Blade does a killer job on their reissues. Sometimes they're adding posters. Anti-static sleeves are almost a standard on everything they put out. But here you go, another concept story. And my favorite track on here is, my favorite track on this album is Eye of the Witch, which leads off the album. And sorry, I hesitated there for a minute, but some of this font is harder to read. Two other favorite tracks on here are Burn, and I really love 1642 Imprisonment, when King's yelling 1642, you know, in that high falsetto, which, like I said, I'm not a singer, but yeah, Eye of the Witch, check out that track. Snowy Shaw does the drums on here, but it's through what I believe are triggered drums. I mean, it's no Judas Priest Ram It Down sound, but it's got its kind of generic sounding moments on the drums, but it doesn't bring this album down, I'll tell you that for sure. But yeah, go check out Eye of the Witch or 1642 Imprisonment, 1990s The Eye, bringing us into what I'll say is, if you fell off the King Diamond bus after 1990 and there was a 5-year gap, here's one that I encourage you. It's underrated. This is the updated cover, remastered by Andy LaRocque. This is The Spider's Lullaby. Fantastic album. And what I think I said earlier, this is the one where the first, I think, 5 tracks are standalone tracks, which you don't get much of that with King Diamond. And then right into the second half, which is basically The Spider's Lullaby story. And ironically enough, my favorite tracks are the standalone tracks. And number one, right off the bat, is the lead-off track, From the Other Side. That opening riff by Andy is just fantastic. You got other great players in this band that have been there for years too, like Mike Weed. I'll get to, actually, we'll open this up because we had Mike Weed, Herb Simonson on guitars. He was on about 3 albums, I believe. Darren Anthony on drums, another great drummer. But like I said, King has the ability to surround himself with some really good players, really good people. So yeah, From the Other Side is my favorite track. My 2 runner-ups on this one are Moonlight, which is the, I think, 5th track. Oh, the atmosphere on that one, I love it. And you know, King has that ability to, especially when he's telling a story through different characters, whether it's his mother or grandmother, he's changing his voice, high, deep, mids. It's all here, even in this. And my other favorite track is called 6 Feet Under. So here is The Spider's Lullaby. So like I said, if you fell off the King Diamond bus, this would be a great one to jump onto. And I will mention another kind of must-have one here as we get going. Now, going into the mid-90s, so that was 95. What happened with Merciful Fate in 1993? They came out with In the Shadows. Then they came out with the album Time, which are both great albums. I will, my next video coming up is another episode of 6 with 6 strings. And Merciful Fate is going to feature in that video, so I won't give too much away on that. But so it was, what I'm getting to is King Diamond was a busy guy throughout the 90s, cranking out sometimes one King Diamond album and one Merciful Fate album in a year, which leads us right into 1996's Graveyard. Also coming out that year was Merciful Fate's Into the Unknown. Personally, I would take Into the Unknown over this, but I'm still going to tell you my favorite tracks. And Life. I've said in timing. 1996, my first child was born. My son was born in 96. And then the next King Diamond / Merciful Fate was 98, when my second son was born. I did not have a lot of money to buy a lot of music, so I was late to the party with these next 2 albums for sure. I don't think I really jumped back onto the King Diamond bus till 2000, so there was a gap there. I mean, life does happen. So anyways, this is updated artwork too, also remastered by Andy LaRocque. But let's just name some favorite tracks. Black Hill Sanitarium is my favorite track on this one. And the 2 runner-ups would be Waiting and Heads on the Wall. That one's got a real creepiness to it. But throughout these albums, you are going to hear a lot of wicked guitar solos. If you're into that, they just fit so perfect too. They're just not out of place in any shape or form. I have nothing but respect for Andy LaRocque. He is always a busy guy too, not only with King Diamond, but his production, his studio is always busy from what I've read. But yeah, Black Hill Sanitarium, my favorite track off of The Graveyard from 1996. Jumping right into Voodoo from 1998. which also saw a release from Merciful Fate called Dead Again. Now, these had the same producer, I forget who it was. And I mean, this one and Dead Again had the same production. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but again, I'm on board with like what I'm saying is there's no King Diamond that is leaving my collection. I always find something I love, whether it's even just the storyline, but sometimes, well, some of these albums are a little underwhelming, and this one for me is a bit underwhelming, but I'll still name you a couple of my favorite, or my favorite track is Lowell House, which kind of, it goes from the intro right into that. Check out that track. A couple other favorites would be a song called A Secret and Salem. That is a killer track too. Again, lots of solos, great drum work too, bass, whatever you want to say, but yeah, and some cool artwork. So there is Voodoo from 1998. Going into, and I'm pretty sure this is where, yeah, like I said before, I think there's a little bit of a gap, and maybe in the early 2000s, I had a couple extra bucks that I started to pick up some of these albums. But you got to think too, those were the years where there wasn't a lot coming out, which I'm going to touch on here in a minute. But this is House of God from 2000. Always thought this cover was really kind of creepy. But favorite track on here has always been Black Devil. And this one features, yes, Glenn Drover. I actually met Glenn Drover when he, okay, so they had that Megadeth Gigantour in 2010. Glenn Drover was not in Megadeth at the time. He had already left. But what he was doing was he was filling in for Testament because Alex Skolnick was off doing something with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I just remember him being, fairly short. Not that I'm super tall. I'm only roughly 5'11" myself. But nice guy to talk to, Canadian guy. But he's featured on this album. Always loved this picture of King. Super creepy. But favorite tracks, yes, Black Devil for sure. Follow the Wolf and Just a Shadow. Just a Shadow. Again, you can laugh at those if you want. I don't care. But yeah, go check out Black Devil off of House of God from 2000. Jumping into what I always thought was an unnecessary story to keep going, but it's there. I have it. It's Abigail II from 2002. But this is probably the one that I go to the least. But it's King Diamond. I'm going to pick it up. So top track on this one is Miriam. Mansion in Sorrow. Great track. That's actually a really good runner-up. And number 3, I would go with The Crypt. And again, let me know if you're a King Diamond fan. Let me know some of your favorite tracks and your favorite albums too. Always love reading those in the comments. So there's Abigail II from 2002. Now the year of this next album is probably going to tell you a little bit of how this one was received, because they turned around and came out with one of my favorite King Diamond albums in the scheme of things in 2003. So 1 year later, The Puppet Master. Underrated. This one I would throw right up there with The Spider's Lullaby. For albums that you might have missed or you gave up after The Eye, go for this one. Check it out. Always been my favorite track on here is Magic. It is a great track. Also the title track, The Puppet Master, and number 3 would be Blood to Walk. Again, filled with awesome, well-placed solos, great riffs throughout, and and the riff is a huge part of these tracks, which I would suspect all the music is made, and then King writes his story over top of things. That's generally how these type of things go and how they write. But there's The Puppet Master 2003, which brings us to the last album that came out in 2007. In 2007, I was thinking, what was even coming out in 2007? What would have been my favorite album of 2007? There's not a lot, but probably Megadeth, maybe United Abominations would have been my favorite album. you know, I never kept track of all that back then, you know, since, you know, jumping on YouTube and stuff like that. I should actually do a list, go back from 2000 till 2023. If you'd like to see that, let me know. What do you want to know my favorite albums from the past 23 years? But anyways, here we go. 2007's Give Me Your Soul, Please. And a big gap. Was there after this? Yeah, I mean, Merciful Fate. I mean, the last Merciful Fate album was 1999. But yeah, some big gaps. So hopefully we get an album from both Merciful Fate and King Diamond in 2024. All indications are pointing that way, I hope, again. But there is the back cover, front cover. Favorite track on here is The Floating Head. And two runner-ups would be Never Ending Hill and, Mirror Mirror. Check out that one. But if you only check out one track from this album, go check out The Floating Head. Kind of creepy too. And I'll say it for the 17th time. A great guitar solo in there too. And let's see, we got a gatefold on this one. I might as well show you this because this is another awesome picture of King and his, I think, current makeup too. I mean, it's changed over the years between Merciful Fate and King Diamond and stuff, but always that, you know, kind of shock value stuff. They hell of a stage show. Hope to see King Diamond or Merciful Fate, and you know, if they come near me. But there you go. There is my top tracks from King Diamond, all 12 studio albums, and crossing my fingers for that 13th album in 2024. Getting late in the year, I'm going to work on, like I said, that next video will be an episode of 6 with 6 strings. And going on a holiday here in a few weeks from now, I'm going to put together my Rush ranking. I'm going to finalize that, record that when I get home. And definitely got to start thinking about my year-end list for, you know, those top albums of 2023. You know, I got a good idea, but I'm still, nothing's in stone whatsoever. But I hope you enjoyed that one. And until next time, stay heavy.